There was a man called Adeyemi. He lived in Lagos in a small room where the walls sweated when the sun was hot and shook when the thunder came at night. He was not a king, not a prince, not even a rich man. He sold old phones on a wooden table by the roadside. Every morning he shouted, "Original, original," until his throat burned. But no matter how much he sold, he stayed poor. His slippers had holes, his rice was always small. And his dreams were bigger than his pocket. One night, as the rain slapped the city hard, Adeyemi stood under a leaking bridge. His goods were wet. His heart was heavy. He whispered, "If only money would come to me, if only I could touch wealth just once." Out of the darkness, an old man stepped forward. His eyes were like fireflies. His clothes were torn, yet his voice was strong. "What do you wish for, Adeyemi?" the man asked. Adeyemi laughed bitterly. "Gold. Let everything I touch turn to gold. Then I will never beg again." The man gave him a kola nut glowing red inside. "Eat, but remember, every gift carries a shadow." Adeyemi chewed. The taste was bitter, then sweet. Then his whole body shook like drums at a festival. The next morning his table was empty. He touched a broken phone. It shone bright, solid gold. He touched his chair. Gold. His mirror. Gold. His mouth fell open. He shouted, "I am rich!" The streets soon knew him as the Golden Man of Lagos. But gifts with shadows never sleep. Adeyemi bought a new suit. He bought shoes so shiny they blinded passers-by. He walked into the market proud. When he picked up a tomato, it froze, turning gold in his hand. The seller screamed, "Blood of Jesus!" The crowd gathered. Some clapped, some ran, some knelt and begged him for blessings. At first, Adeyemi laughed. He touched people's cups. Their cups became golden treasure. He touched a beggar's stick. It turned gold, heavy, too heavy for the man to carry. The beggar cried, but Adeyemi did not stop. He was drunk on power. That night his wife Funky cooked yam for him. When she placed the steaming plate before him, he picked a piece with his fingers. The yam hardened gold between his teeth. He tried to drink water, but the water became a gold block, choking his throat. He coughed, gasping. Funka stared at him with wide eyes. "Adeyemi, what is happening?" He smiled weakly. "It is a blessing, my love." But inside, fear scratched his belly. The next day, his daughter Sade came running home from school. She leapt into his arms, laughing. Her laughter froze. Her body turned stiff, her skin glowing gold. Adeyemi screamed until the walls shook. He shook her, begged her, wept, but her small golden eyes stared without blinking. Funka fell to the floor, wailing. "You have killed our child." The neighbors gathered, whispering, pointing, backing away. Adeyemi dropped to his knees. For the first time, the golden touch felt like a curse. The people of Lagos began to fear him. Wherever he went, life turned into lifeless treasure. Fish at the market turned to statues. Flowers wilted into cold metal. Children ran from him. Even the rain that touched his skin hardened into coins that clinked on the ground. Adeyemi's wealth grew, but his home was filled with silence. Funka no longer looked at him with love. She sat in the corner, staring at Sade's golden statue, her tears falling like broken glass. One night Adeyemi could not bear it. He returned to the bridge, the same place where he had met the old man. The man was there, drinking palm wine, his eyes glowing faint blue. Adeyemi fell to the ground. "Take it back, take this gift away. I would rather be poor than live with this curse." The man chuckled. "You begged for gold, you forgot to beg for wisdom. Do you now see the shadow?" Adeyemi pounded the ground, which turned to gold under his fists. "Please, I will give anything. Just bring back my child." The man sipped his wine, his silence heavier than thunder. The old man placed his gourd of palm wine on the ground and bent forward. His eyes glowed like lightning bugs trapped in glass. "Adeyemi," he said slowly, "you asked for gold, not for joy. You asked for power, not for peace. Do you think the world gives both at once?" Adeyemi's tears fell and hardened into tiny golden beads on the ground. He tried to touch the old man's feet, but the stranger stepped back quickly. "Even I cannot risk your touch." "Please," Adeyemi cried, "my wife will never forgive me. My daughter will never laugh again. I will give back every coin, every plate, every treasure. Take it all, just give me my Sade back." The old man shook his head. "The river of life flows only one way, but there is a place where curses are washed, where spirits drink deep. If you are brave, you may find it." Adeyemi's eyes widened. "Where?" "The River Ogun," the man whispered, "where the water never sleeps. Go there, and maybe the river will hear your cries. But beware, every step you take will test your soul." Before Adeyemi could speak again, thunder rolled. The man vanished into the night, leaving only the smell of palm wine and smoke. Adeyemi staggered home. His house was silent. Funke sat by Sade's golden form, her eyes red from weeping. She looked at Adeyemi with hatred and pain. "What did you bring upon us?" she asked. Adeyemi knelt beside her. "I will find a cure. I swear on my life. There is a river. If I can reach it, Sade will live again." Funk turned her face away. "If you fail, don't come back." Adeyemi wrapped his golden hands in rags so he would not harm anything more. At dawn he set out, walking through Lagos streets that glittered where he had touched them, leaving behind whispers, curses, and eyes that followed him. Adeyemi's journey began with hunger. Every food he touched turned to metal. Every drop of water became coins. By the third day his lips were cracked, his throat burning like fire. Still he pressed on, asking strangers for help. But no one would come close. Mothers pulled children away. Traders hissed. Drivers refused to stop their buses for him. At Ojota, a boy with no shoes ran up to him. The boy's clothes were torn, but his eyes shone with curiosity. "Are you the golden man?" he asked. Adeyemi covered his hands and nodded weakly. "Yes," the boy grinned. "Touch my stone, make it gold. Then I will be rich." Adeyemi shook his head. "It is not a gift. It is a curse. Run, child. Run from greed before it eats your soul." But the boy followed him for many streets, throwing the stone at his feet, begging. Adeyemi finally picked it with the rags on his hands. The stone shone, gold heavy. The boy's face lit up with joy. But when he tried to lift it, it crushed his small fingers. He screamed. People rushed to him. They shouted at Adeyemi, "Monster! Devil! Leave our city!" Adeyemi ran, tears in his eyes, the screams chasing him down the highway. By the time he reached the edge of town, the sun was falling. Ahead lay the forest, dark and whispering. Somewhere inside was the River Ogun. The air smelled of earth and secrets. Adeyemi took a deep breath and stepped into the shadows. The forest was alive with whispers. Crickets sang, owls hooted, and the tall trees leaned over Adeyemi like judges in a courtroom. His wrapped hands trembled. Every branch he brushed with his shoulder turned stiff, golden, and the weight of them cracked the trunks until they fell with loud thuds. He pressed on. The deeper he went, the darker it became. Soon he could not see the sky. His belly screamed with hunger. He bent to pick berries, but the moment his fingers brushed them, they hardened into useless metal. "Am I cursed to starve?" he shouted. His voice bounced from tree to tree, mocking him. A shadow moved. Out stepped a woman, tall, dressed in white cloth that glowed faintly. Her hair was braided long, her eyes bright like moonlight. "You seek the river," she said, her voice low. Adeyemi nodded quickly. "Yes, mother, please show me the way. My daughter is dead because of me." The woman shook her head. "Dead, but not gone. If you truly love her, the river may hear. But the path is not walked with pride, it is walked with sacrifice." She stretched out her hand. "Give me your shoes." Adeyemi hesitated. His shoes were the only thing between him and the sharp forest ground, but he pulled them off, his feet raw. She took them and vanished like smoke. Barefoot, weak and shivering, Adeyemi stumbled on. Hours passed. The forest grew wilder. Strange eyes blinked at him from the bushes. Hyenas laughed in the dark. His heart pounded. He tripped over roots, cutting his legs, but he did not stop. At dawn he reached a wide clearing. In the center stood a giant iroko tree. Its roots coiled like snakes, its branches clawing at the sky. Beneath it sat 3 men playing ayo with glowing cowries. Their skin shimmered as though dusted with gold. They looked up and grinned. "Welcome, golden man," one said. "We have been waiting." Adeyemi fell to his knees. "Please, brothers, show me the river. My child is locked in gold. My wife weeps. I have no rest." The men laughed. One dropped a cowrie into his palm. "We will show you if you can win against us." Adeyemi's stomach turned. His hands were cursed. How could he play ayo when every cowrie he touched would turn to metal? He sat before them. The IO board glowed. The men's eyes burned with mischief. Adeyemi reached for a cowrie. It turned solid gold in his fingers, heavy, dead. The men roared with laughter. "You cannot win," one mocked. "You are doomed to lose every game, every day, every breath." Adeyemi's chest tightened. He dropped the cowrie, burying his face in his hands. "Then kill me now. My curse has already killed me." The laughter stopped. One of the men leaned close. "Maybe he has learned. Pride is loud, but despair whispers truth." The second man nodded. "If he can walk 3 days without food, without drink, without turning back, the river will find him." The third man tapped the board and the cowries turned back to white. "Go. But if you drink even 1 drop before the river, your daughter will be lost forever." Adeyemi bowed low. "I will not fail." So Adeyemi walked. His belly shrank, his lips bled. The sun baked his skin. He passed streams of sweet water, but when he bent to drink, he remembered the warning and staggered away. He passed women pounding yam by the roadside, but when they offered him food, his touch turned their mortar to gold. They screamed and fled. By the second day, he could barely stand. His legs shook like paper. The forest floor spun beneath him. He whispered his daughter's name with each step. "Sade, Sade, Sade." On the third morning, he collapsed. His breath rattled. He thought of Funke, of the way she looked at him the night she said, "Don't come back if you fail." He thought of Sade's laughter. His tears dried on his cheeks before they could fall. Then he heard it, the rush of water, strong and deep. His head rose. There, through the trees, the River Ogun gleamed like silver fire. Adeyemi crawled. His hands, still wrapped in rags, clawed at the earth. The sound grew louder, sweeter. When he reached the bank, he wept. The river moved with power, waves crashing against rocks, foam rising like white smoke. It called to him like a mother's voice. He dragged himself forward. But just as he dipped his hands into the water, a figure rose from the river, tall, crowned with shells and beads, holding a staff that shone like lightning. The spirit's eyes cut through him. "You dare come here with greedy hands," the spirit boomed. "Do you think the river is a dustbin for your foolishness?" Adeyemi fell flat, trembling. Forgive me, I wanted gold, but I lost everything. Take my life, but give back my daughter." The river spirit raised the staff high. The water swirled like a storm. The river spirit's eyes flashed like lightning. "Adeyemi," he thundered, "you carried greed in your heart, and Lagos carries your curse. Why should I give back what you destroyed?" Adeyemi pressed his forehead to the wet earth. "Because I have learned. Gold is nothing when your child is gone. Let the world take all my riches. Let me return to dust. Just let me hear Sade laugh again." The spirit studied him. The water behind swirled, glowing brighter. "Words are easy, proof is harder. If you wish your daughter back, you must give me what you love most." Adeyemi lifted his head, weak. "What I love most is already gone." The spirit's voice grew cold. "Then give me your hands." Adeyemi froze. His cursed hands, wrapped in rags, shook. Without them he could not work, could not hold, could not live. But without Sade, life was already broken. He unwrapped the rags slowly. His fingers gleamed gold, hard and lifeless. He stretched them out. "Take them." The spirit slammed his staff on the river. The ground shook. The water rose, coiling around Adeyemi's arms. Pain burned through him. He screamed, but he did not pull back. When the water fell, his hands were gone. In their place were stumps, bleeding, shaking. Adeyemi collapsed, faint, his body shivering. The spirit lowered the staff. "Now you know the weight of desire." Back in Lagos, Funke sat beside Sade's golden statue. Her eyes were hollow from crying. Neighbors whispered outside the house, gossip floating like smoke. Some said Adeyemi had run mad. Some said the devil had taken him. Then, as the evening sun slipped through the window, something strange happened. The golden skin on Sade's cheek flickered. A crack spread across her body, shining. With a sound like glass breaking, the gold peeled away. Her warm brown skin returned, soft and alive. She coughed once, then gasped. Funke dropped to her knees, screaming with joy, clutching her child close. "Sade, my baby." But when she looked at Sade's small hands, she saw scars where her fingers had stiffened. They bore faint golden marks, a reminder of what had happened. Funke wept again, not from sorrow but from shock and relief. Meanwhile, Adeyemi lay by the riverbank, faint, barely breathing. His arms bled where his hands had been. The forest floor was red, the air heavy with the smell of iron. The river spirit stood over him. "Your curse is broken. Your daughter breathes. But you, Adeyemi, must walk the earth with the price of your greed." The spirit turned, melting back into the water. The waves settled, silence returned. Adeyemi tried to rise, but his body was weak. He staggered to his knees, then fell again. He could no longer hold himself. For hours he lay in the mud, staring at the sky through the trees. At last a hunter passing through found him. The hunter gasped at the sight of his bleeding arms. He carried Adeyemi to a small hut at the edge of the forest, where his mother, an old healer, lived. The healer ground herbs, bound his wounds, and fed him water spoon by spoon. Adeyemi slept for many days, trapped in dreams where gold melted and his daughter's laughter echoed like bells. Back in Lagos, Funke struggled. Though Sade was alive, the neighbors whispered even louder. "Her husband is cursed," they said. "Their house is unclean." Traders refused to sell her food. Landlords threatened to throw her out. One day Sade asked softly, "Mama, where is Papa?" Funk's eyes filled with tears. "He went to fight for you. I do not know if he will return." Sade touched her mother's cheek with her scarred hand. "He will come, I can feel it." Funke hugged her tight, but fear sat heavy in her chest. At the healer's hut, Adeyemi woke at last. His arms were wrapped in white cloth. He stared at them, empty where his hands should be. Tears rolled down his face. The healer placed a bowl of porridge before him. "Eat, you are alive." Adeyemi shook his head. "Alive but broken. How can a man live without hands?" The healer's eyes were sharp. "A man lives with his heart, not his fingers. If you want to die, die, but if you want to live, learn. The gods gave you a lesson. Do not waste it." Adeyemi looked into the bowl. Slowly, painfully, he bent his arms and ate without fingers, spilling half on the ground. Each bite tasted like shame, but also like hope. When Adeyemi was strong enough to walk, the healer's son carved him 2 wooden stumps, tying them tight at his arms. They were rough, but they helped him carry small things. Still, every step felt like punishment. One morning, the healer stood at the door of the hut. "You cannot hide here forever. Your wife waits, your daughter waits. Go home, Adeyemi." Adeyemi bowed his head. "How can I face them like this? How can I hold my child when I have no hands?" The healer's voice was sharp. "Better to hold her with your arms than bury her with your greed." So Adeyemi left. The forest road was long. The sun beat down. The dust stung his eyes. People he met on the way stared, whispering, pointing. Some mocked. "The golden man has become a beggar man." Others spat and crossed to the other side, but Adeyemi kept walking. With every step he whispered his daughter's name. "Sade, Sade, Sade." Back in Lagos, Funke sold a kara by the roadside to feed herself and Sade. Every coin she earned was small, but she thanked God for it. Yet the neighbors never stopped. "She is cursed," they muttered. "Her husband brought death into this place." Some mothers forbade their children from playing with Sade. The little girl sat by herself often, tracing lines in the sand with her scarred fingers. But inside her eyes burned a fire like her father's. One evening, Funke returned from the market to find a crowd at her door. Men and women shouting, pointing, holding sticks. "Leave this house," one man barked, "before your curse spreads to us all." Funke trembled, clutching Sade close. "Where will we go?" she cried. "Anywhere but here," another shouted. The crowd roared. Just then a weak voice rose above the noise. "They will go nowhere." The people turned. Adeyemi stood at the end of the street barefoot, clothes torn, arms wrapped in white cloth. He looked smaller than before, broken, but his eyes blazed. The crowd gasped. Some whispered in fear, others in anger. "He has returned," they murmured. "The man who turned Lagos to gold." Funke ran to him, tears spilling. She touched his face gently. "Adeyemi, you came back." He nodded slowly. His eyes shifted to Sade. She stepped forward, shy, uncertain. "Papa?" Adeyemi knelt low, his arms open wide. "Sade!" She ran into his embrace. For the first time in many weeks, his heart felt full again. He pressed his face to her hair, breathing in her warmth. He could not hold her with fingers, but his arms wrapped around her tightly, and it was enough. The neighbors muttered, some spat, some shook their heads, but a few, very few, watched in silence, their hearts stirring. Adeyemi lifted his face and spoke loudly. Yes, I was greedy. Yes, I begged for gold. But I paid the price. My hands are gone, but my soul is awake. If you hate me, but do not hate my wife, do not hate my child. The street grew quiet. For once, no one spoke back. But silence does not mean peace. The days that followed were heavy. Traders refused to sell Adeyemi food. Old friends turned their backs. Even pastors avoided his eyes. He tried to work, but without hands, no shopkeeper would let him stay near their goods. At night he lay awake staring at the ceiling. Funke turned to him once and whispered, "How will we survive?" Adeyemi's chest tightened. "I do not know, but I will not beg the spirits again. I will find a way." Sade, listening from the corner, spoke softly. "Papa, maybe your curse is not only a curse. Maybe there is a way to use it for good." Adeyemi looked at her sharply. "How can gold that kills be good?" But the thought lingered. 1 week later, a strange thing happened. A rich man from another part of Lagos heard the story. He came with guards dressed in white lace and heavy beads. He knocked on Adeyemi's door. "I hear you can turn anything to gold," the man said. "Show me." Adeyemi shook his head. "The curse is gone. My touch is no longer golden." The man frowned. "Then you are useless to me." He spat on the ground and left, leaving laughter and dust behind. But 2 days later another visitor came. This time it was a poor widow. She carried a small pot cracked down the side. "They say you know what greed does. Teach me so my sons do not die chasing shadows." Adeyemi stared at her, stunned. For the first time someone had not come for gold, but for wisdom. He looked at Funke. She looked back at him. And slowly, Adeyemi began to speak. Adeyemi sat on a low stool. The widow with the cracked pot placed her 2 sons before him. They were thin boys, eyes wide with hunger and curiosity. Adeyemi lifted his arms, the white cloth around his stumps heavy with stains. "Children," he said softly, "do you know what gold does to the heart?" The boys shook their heads. "It blinds," Adeyemi whispered. "It makes you forget the taste of food, the touch of love, the laughter of family. It makes you think you are a god when you are only dust." The boys stared at his arms, their mouths open. The widow bowed low, tears shining in her eyes. "Thank you. May your pain not be wasted." When they left, Funk turned to him. "Do you see? People may not want your hands, but they need your voice." Adeyemi looked at her long, then nodded slowly. Word spread like wind. Soon mothers came with children, asking Adeyemi to tell them the story of the golden curse. Old men came too, leaning on sticks, curious to hear. Traders passing by stopped to listen. Adeyemi spoke of the night he begged for wealth under the bridge, of the joy that turned sour, of the daughter he lost and found again. He told them how the river spirit asked for his hands, and how even treasure cannot pay for the tears of a child. Children gasped, women wept, men shook their heads. Some laughed bitterly, saying, "Even the rich will not learn from this," but others listened with their whole hearts. Soon the neighbors who once spat at him began to sit quietly outside his home, listening at dusk. But not everyone was happy. The rich men of Lagos grew angry. "This crippled fool is poisoning people against gold," they sneered. "If he keeps speaking, who will buy our lies? Who will bow to us?" One night, 3 men in fine clothes came to Adeyemi's house. Their shadows stretched long in the lamplight. "Golden man," the tallest one said, "keep your mouth shut. Stop telling your story, or else." Adeyemi raised his eyes. His voice was steady. "Or else what? You cannot curse a man already cursed." The men exchanged glances. Then the tallest leaned close, his breath hot. "We will make sure your wife and daughter pay for your tongue." Funke, standing behind Adeyemi, gasped, but Adeyemi did not flinch. "If you harm them, you will learn the river's wrath. Go, before you bring storms on your heads." The men left, but their eyes promised danger. The next day, Adeyemi gathered the people in the street. He told them what the rich men had said. "They want silence," he shouted, "because silence feeds greed, but I will not stop. I lost my hands for this truth. I will not bury it." The crowd roared in agreement. Women beat drums, children clapped, men stamped their feet. For the first time, Adeyemi saw something new in their faces. Not fear, not pity, but respect. Still, in the shadows, the rich men plotted. That night, as Funke and Sade slept, Adeyemi sat outside staring at the stars. His heart was heavy. "River spirit," he whispered, "you took my hands but gave me a voice. If I must die for this, let it be worth something." From the darkness a breeze rose. The leaves rustled like whispers. For a moment, Adeyemi thought he heard the river's voice. "Stand firm. The storm is not the end." He bowed his head, tears sliding silently down his cheeks. Meanwhile, in the city center, the rich men gathered in a hall lit by lanterns. They poured palm wine into calabashes and spoke with anger. "This Adeyemi will spoil everything," one said. "People are listening, people are changing." Another slammed his fist on the table. "Then we end him. Let the golden man vanish like smoke. By the next moon, no one will dare speak his name." They drank, sealing their plot with foam and lies. But outside, under the moon, a child passing by overheard them. It was a boy with bare feet, the same boy whose stone Adeyemi had once turned to gold. His small heart beat fast. He ran through the night, heading straight for Adeyemi's house. The boy with bare feet ran through the sleeping streets, his breath loud in the night. He stumbled, rose, and ran again until he reached Adeyemi's door. He banged with both fists. Adeyemi woke, stepping outside with his bandaged arms. "Who knocks?" The boy fell to his knees, panting. They want to kill you, the rich men, I heard them. By the next moon they will silence you." Funky appeared behind Adeyemi, clutching Sade close. Fear flashed in her eyes. "Adeyemi, what will we do?" Adeyemi placed his arm on the boy's shoulder. "Thank you, son. Your feet are faster than their lies." He looked at his wife, his daughter, his small home. Then he lifted his face to the stars. "If they want me, they will find me ready." The next morning, Adeyemi called the people together. Men, women, children crowded the street, curious. He raised his bandaged arms high. "The rich men want me silent," he shouted. "They fear the truth, but I will not stop. My hands are gone, but my tongue is still sharp. If they strike me, let my blood remind you. Gold cannot feed a hungry child. Gold cannot bring back the dead." The crowd roared. Drums beat. Women lifted ululations into the air. Children jumped, clapping their hands. In the shadows, spies of the rich men watched, their faces hard. That night the attack came. 3 men slipped through the alleys, knives hidden, eyes sharp. They crept to Adeyemi's door. But inside, Adeyemi was waiting. He had heard the forest whisper, had felt the river's warning in his bones. When the men burst in, Adeyemi did not fight with fists. He fought with words. "Look at me," he cried, standing tall, his arms lifted. "See what greed does. I had gold in my hands, and now I have nothing. If you strike me, you strike every poor man who has been robbed. You strike every child who has gone hungry while your pockets shine." The men froze. One's knife trembled. Another's eyes filled with doubt. The tallest snarled. "Shut your mouth!" He lunged. But before the blade could touch him, neighbors stormed in. Men with sticks, women with stones. The street had risen. The fight spilled outside. Drums thundered. Voices rose like waves. The attackers were outnumbered. They fled into the night, their pride broken. The people lifted Adeyemi on their shoulders, chanting, "Golden man, golden man!" Adeyemi shook his head, tears burning his eyes. "No," he shouted above the noise, "I am not the golden man. I am the broken man who found truth. Let that be my name." The people repeated it, their voices rolling through the night like thunder. "Broken man, broken man." But the rich men were not finished. In their great hall they raged. "The people protect him. Then we will break the people too." They sent soldiers to the market, taxing poor traders until their baskets were empty. They seized goats and yams from farmers. They whipped anyone who spoke Adeyemi's name. Lagos groaned under the weight, hunger spread, fear spread. Yet in every corner whispers grew. The broken man told us this would happen. The broken man said gold blinds. The rich men's anger turned to panic. One evening, as Adeyemi sat telling stories by lantern light, a young girl raised her hand. Her eyes were sharp. "Baba Adeyemi, if gold is not true wealth, then what is?" Adeyemi paused. The crowd leaned close, waiting. He looked at Funke, at Sade, at the children gathered with open faces. His voice was steady. "True wealth," he said, "is a heart that loves, a mouth that speaks truth, hands that serve, whether they are flesh or gone like mine. True wealth is a life that leaves others better than it found them." Silence fell. Then the crowd erupted, clapping, cheering, stamping their feet. And in the corner, a spy of the rich men lowered his head, hiding his tears. The rich men gathered in secret again. Their faces were dark with fury. "The broken man grows louder," one hissed. "The people chant his name. If we wait, he will turn Lagos against us." Another slammed his fist on the table. "Then we crush him in the open. No more knives in the night. We will bring soldiers, fire, fear. By tomorrow the people will forget his name." They sent word to the governor, who owed them favors. Soon drums of war echoed. Soldiers marched, boots striking the ground like thunder, torches burning bright. They were headed straight for Adeyemi's street. That night Funke heard the sound first. She shook Adeyemi awake. "They are coming. Soldiers. Many." Adeyemi sat up, his eyes calm though his heart pounded. He looked at Sade, who was trembling. He kissed her forehead. "Do not fear, my child. Truth does not bow to fire." The neighbors rushed in, shouting, "We must hide you. They will burn this place down." Adeyemi stood slowly, wrapping his white bandages tighter. "If I run, the story dies. If I stay, maybe the story lives." Funke grabbed his arm. "Adeyemi, please." But he only smiled sadly. "My love, you once told me not to return if I failed. Tonight I return, not with gold, not with hands, but with truth. Let me stand." The soldiers arrived. Their torches lit the night, their spears glittering. The commander shouted, "Bring out the broken man!" Adeyemi stepped forward. His neighbors gasped, but they did not move. He stood in the open, barefoot, his clothes simple, his arms lifted. "I am here," he called, his voice carried clear. "I am the man who begged for gold and lost everything. Kill me if you wish, but know this, truth cannot be killed. Even if I die, the story will live in every mouth that has heard it." The soldiers paused. Some shifted uneasily. Whispers ran through the crowd. The commander sneered. "Enough words! Seize him!" But before they could move, hundreds of voices rose. The people poured from their houses, from the alleys, from the rooftops. Men, women, children, all shouting, the broken man, he speaks for us." The soldiers hesitated. The commander raised his hand to strike, but his men faltered. One dropped his spear, another stepped back. The people surged forward, unarmed but fierce, their voices louder than drums. "We will not let you take him." The commander shouted again, but his men would not move. Fear flickered in their eyes. Against so many voices, their torches looked small. At last the commander cursed and turned. "Fall back!" he barked. The soldiers retreated, torches dying in the night. The people roared with victory, lifting Adeyemi high on their shoulders once more. But Adeyemi was not smiling. His eyes were wet, his face tired. He lifted his bandaged arms to quiet the crowd. Slowly the voices fell. Silence spread. "Do not cheer for me," he said softly. "Cheer for yourselves. Tonight you learned that no gold, no whip, no soldier is stronger than people who stand together. If you remember that, then Lagos will never be broken." The crowd wept, clapped, stamped, shouted. Funke and Sade clung to him, their faces shining with pride and tears. That night songs were made. Drums carried the rhythm across the city. The name Broken Man became a story told in markets, in schools, under bridges. And the rich men, hearing the noise, knew their power had cracked. But deep in the dark hall, one rich man leaned close to the others and whispered, "The people may love him now, but stories are dangerous. If we cannot silence him, we will twist his story until even his friends turn away." And the others nodded, their faces cold as stone. The morning after the soldiers fled, Lagos woke to a new sound. It wasn't horns or gunfire, it was song. Market women sang of the broken man as they spread their wares. Bus conductors shouted his name between fares. Even children skipping rope chanted, "Gold can blind, but truth can shine." Adeyemi walked the street slowly, Funke and Sade by his side. Neighbors who once spat now bowed their heads, some ashamed, some grateful. His arms were still bandaged, his body still weak, but his spirit was stronger than iron. When he reached his old table by the roadside, where he once sold broken phones, he sat, not to sell but to speak. People gathered, some from far villages, some from nearby streets. He told them again, "I had the power to turn Lagos into gold, but I could not eat, I could not drink, I could not hold my child. Gold took my hands, but truth gave me a life. Do not chase shadows, do not worship what cannot feed you." The crowd listened in silence. Some wept, some smiled, all remembered. That night, under the bridge where it all began, the old stranger appeared once more. He held a gourd of palm wine, his eyes glowing faint blue. He watched Adeyemi from the shadows and smiled faintly. "This is what I wanted," the stranger murmured to the night. "Not a man of gold, but a man of truth." He lifted the gourd to his lips, drank deeply, and vanished into smoke. Years passed. Adeyemi's hair turned white, his back bent. But every evening people still came to hear him speak. Traders, children, travelers, they all gathered to listen to the story of the golden man who became the broken man. And when Adeyemi's time finally came, the people of Lagos did not bury him as a beggar. They buried him as a teacher, a hero, a warning, and a song. Drums rolled through the streets, carrying his story into the future. And so the tale lived on, whispered in corners, sung in markets, told under bridges. Gold may shine, but truth is brighter,